Hello, cats and kittens.
Hello.
Time for another movie review with Horror Gal and Molly.
Hi.
So this is an older movie that I saw in the theater with my children. It's from '08. And when my children and I saw it, the baby was like 4 and the older one was like 13, 14 years old. So it was such a treat. And I have seen showing it. I haven't seen it since then. And I've showed it to Molly recently because she hasn't seen it. And seeing it now, it's almost 20 years old, and seeing it now, it's not as scary as I thought it was when I first saw it in the theater. But of course, stuff on the small screen never is. So what we watched is Quarantine, and that's from 2008. Now, Quarantine is a remake, and this is something that I forgot to tell you. Quarantine was a remake of a Spanish movie called Record, R-E-C with a dot, like you actually hit record when you're doing a VCR or something to that respect. And because everything is shown from the point of view of a news video reporter. So you've got Angela, who is a
news reporter.
Yeah, she's like an anchor, and she's doing a story called The Night Shift, where she does ride-alongs with policemen, firemen, nurses at night, and she kind of shadows these people to show what they do. Mm-hmm. So her and the cameraman Scott, they're good friends, but you see it's kind of like Blair Witch in a way, but not as shaky cam. But you see it through the point of view of the lens as what Scott is seeing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so go ahead.
Oh yeah, by the way, we didn't say but Scott's the cameraman.
Yeah,
we forgot about
and they're friends. Anyway, so the woman that plays Angela, who is the reporter, she is Dexter's sister from the Dexter TV show from the early 2000s, Jennifer something. But she was also in a Possession movie, and she's been in a few more things. But she was really good, and she gets really good later on. She's just an average kind of bubbly chick. But then later on, she really shows her acting chops because it gets rough. But anyway, so what happens?
So she's waiting for a call, and she gets shown the people she's shadowing for, Jake and Fletcher. Obviously,
firemen.
Yeah, firemen. And they're waiting for a call, and they do get one. It's like a call to an apartment because they heard someone screaming.
Mm-hmm. And the firemen were telling her basically that the majority of calls they get is for EMT service. It's for heart attacks and things like that. So they don't really get called out for fire much, but it's mainly just health services. So they get called out to this apartment complex that's actually just a very large building with several units in it. And I think there's 8 units and an attic. And when they get there, the older man, he's the manager or the owner of the apartments, and he tells them that one of the older women that lives by herself in one of these apartments, that's who they called about because they hear her screaming. And they knock on the door and nobody answers. She lives by herself. So they're met there by 2 policemen and then the 2 firemen, and then you've got the 2 news reporters. You've got Angela and Scott, and Scott's filming. Okay, so it really does look like you're there. You feel like you're there. You're like following them as they go up the stairs, and they go, and they finally have to break the door down. So tell them what happens.
So they break the door down, and they're like calling out for her. Like, her name's Miss Espinosa. They're like, Miss Espinosa. They're like, where are you? We're trying to help. And you see her down the hallway, and she's like wheezing. She's struggling to breathe.
She's in her nightgown. She's an elderly woman, and it's very dimly lit. And I don't know if we forgot to tell this, but it's at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's very dark. It's a very old Spanish style apartment complex with like 3 rows of stairs and a big atrium. So it's very dark. It only has little small sconces. You can see what's happening, but it's very, very dimly lit. So everything is in shadow. And you're seeing Miss Espinosa at the end of the hallway there in her house. And she's like, and she's like foaming, but she's not threatening. She just, at this point, looks like she's sick. Okay.
Yeah. She looks like she's sick, and they're like, hey, we just want to help you. We're going to call some help. We're going to get an ambulance. And she's like, no, please don't. Please don't. So they're trying to, like, grab her to get her downstairs to, like, help her. But they're like, the policemen are, like, trying to get around her so they can, like, you know, put her arms around their neck so they can, like, carry her down. But she goes crazy. She's like, nope, I'm done with this. And she latches on to one of the policemen. We don't know his name. We don't get told.
No, and a lot of the characters don't really have a lot of like exposition or anything.
Villain.
Yeah, the only people you really get to meet are Angela and Scott, the cameraman, and then Jake and Fletcher, the fireman.
And the other policeman.
And the other policeman, later on. But the two policemen, like the Miss Espinosa jumps at one of the policemen and like bites his artery, like tears side of his neck out. And at that point, Fletcher, the fireman, pulls her off and then kind of lands on top of her to kind of sedate her, because now they have to tend to this policeman that's bleeding out. So they carry him all downstairs, and this is very chaotic. You see it from the point of, like, you're there, because, you see it from behind the camera. So everybody's frantic, and they go downstairs, and the rest of everybody in the complex comes downstairs.
But, they put him on the ground, they're, trying to, Scott's putting the camera, in his face to try to record what's happening. And the other policeman, his name's complicated, starts with a W. But
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but he's like, get the camera out of my face, get it out.
Because he's stressed.
Yeah.
Everybody's stressed. And they're like, is there a doctor in the house? Is there a doctor in the house? And there's a man that's a vet. So the vet is trying really hard to tend to this wound. And that's when they realize
that they're bringing him to the fabric room to help him since they're putting pressure on the wound. And you hear nothing upstairs, but then out of nowhere you see Fletcher falling on a you would parachuting, just full
block.
Yeah, just
Yes, you turn around and they're taking the policeman back to this back room that was a factory, that they have some long tables that they can lay out, and all of a sudden you see this
flat.
And the fireman, Fletcher, falls 3 stories, and obviously you don't know what happened because you don't hear anything, but it's extremely shocking and it's amazing. And then you see that he's not conscious, his broken bones everywhere, and Miss Espinosa bit the side of his face. But again, you hear nothing. It's just
straight up splat.
Yes, but then they realize too that before that, she kind of skipped this. They realized that there is a police presence outside now. When they tried to take the hurt policeman outside, they couldn't. They were locked in. The police presence, there was a fire presence, and it was terrifying because they would not let him. There was one entrance and then one exit in the back, and everything's completely sealed off. And if they tried to break a window or get out, and they were met with snipers, and they were told, "Do not come out. You stay in there." And then they outside just completely encased in plastic like an ET, to where they couldn't get out. They're treating it as a biohazard.
But anyways, they're bringing Fletcher and
the policeman.
Yeah, and the policeman to the fabric factory back room, and they just set him on the tables, and they're trying to help him. But
the vet is trying to patch him up the best he can.
Yeah, so what happened after that?
So you have all the people that one of the policemen went upstairs and was trying to get everybody out that was in the apartment complex. So you have a handful of people down. It's a woman and her child, and you find out because Angela was interviewing, trying to distract people, getting everything on camera while they're trying to wait to see what happens. And everybody's frantic at this point because they realize that something serious is happening, but they can't get out. They're trapped. They don't know what's wrong with these people. They forget about Miss Espinosa. Basically, they just kind of forget about it. So they go upstairs to try to get everybody downstairs. And then when they go back into Miss Espinosa's apartment, for some reason, I don't remember why, they saw that the cleaning lady tried to run out. And she
bounces off the wall.
She bounces off the wall and then falls over, and she has been bitten and Miss Espinosa is there, and the one remaining police officer pulls his gun, and he's like, "Do not move. I'm going to shoot you. Do not move." And she charges him again, and so he shoots her dead.
And he feels so guilty because he never really has to shoot anyone.
No, he was traumatized big time. I mean, everybody is extremely stressed. Everybody's they don't know what's happening. There's a mother and her child, and the kid's 4 or 5 years old, and she's sick. She's not zombified or anything. She's just sick. And you find out through talking to them that she had a little dog
named
Max, and the father had taken the dog to the vet the day before, and which plays into everything that's going on now, even though we don't realize it. And then they found another woman upstairs alone in her apartment that also seemed to be sick. She's wheezing, she's foaming at the mouth, she's not really coherent, she's having a hard time walking. But they end up getting everybody downstairs. There's a Somalian couple that doesn't speak any English. So they're trying, and then the landlord says that there is an attic apartment, but he hasn't seen the person that rented that apartment
in ages,
in months, he says, and that also plays into this story. We're dying here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what else happened? So when they're down and the vet is examining all these people, the woman that they found in the apartment that was foaming, Miss Espinosa is dead as far as they know. Fletcher, the fireman that was pushed from 3 stories, fell, broke his leg, broke his arm, broke his whatever, and then the policeman that had his throat torn out. They all had the same symptoms, which is
fever, chills, and like they're all rabies symptoms.
That's what the vet says. He's like, I've never seen this before in humans, but they're foaming at the mouth, they're tearing up, they're incoherent, they don't have like a full function, they can't speak. This looks like rabies. And he says the thing about rabies is rabies takes weeks to manifest symptoms, but he says these symptoms are manifesting within an hour of being bitten. But he also says that rabies also can be transmitted not just from the bite, but from bodily fluids like saliva, blood, tears, and there's blood all over everything. Mm. So that's an important means of transmission, which happens later on. Anyway, so this cast of characters, all these different people, what happens after that?
So they do that, and the mom's like, no, she's just sick, she's fine. But the vet's like, no, like, she has these rabies symptoms, but I've never seen it on, like, humans and stuff, like you said.
And there's no cure.
Yeah, there's no cure. Rabies is 100% fatal.
Mm-hmm. So at one point, they want to examine the little girl because she's very sick. And then at that point, of course, she turns and takes a chunk out of her mother's face. And then they try to tackle her, and the mother tells the girl to run. So the girl runs, and it's all just extremely chaotic. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're having a hard time, like, what happened next, because it is very chaotic. And it's just one by one they get picked off. So they end up handcuffing the mother, who's still coherent, but she's bloody, to the side rail, to one of the stair rails. The one remaining police officer's kind of lost his mind at this point.
He's crazy.
They realize they can't get out. They tried to go out another way out the window, and one of the men was shot in the head by the snipers. They are not letting these people out.
Yeah, and you can see that the girl that lived with him, Sadie, he's trying to protect her when they go upstairs to like run away from all like because Fletcher's now out, and so is the policeman, and they're like zombified now. There's no turning back. Yeah,
so they turn around, and at one point Fletcher was down for the count. He had a compound fracture on his leg. He was several broken bones. And then at one point they turn around, and here he is standing there like walking, and you can see his leg, like the part and the bone sticking out, and then this sticking out. And at any point you're waiting for it to collapse. There's no way he should be walking, but there he was. But he was very coherent. And so he starts attacking people. The policeman that was bit start attacking people. And so the few that are left, they start running because they don't know what else to do. They are being attacked from all sides.
Yeah, and before that, there's this other guy. He's a junkie. He was drunk. So the policeman's just like, you're not going back upstairs. Everyone's staying down here because it's safer down here. Mm-hmm. We don't know what's up there still. Like, it's safer down here. And then, like, the junkie's just like, oh, well, why don't we just stay here? Why don't we just step away? Because in a group, they can just fight us all and we'll be dead.
So, of course, you have that one dude in the horror movie that's always a jerk. Mm-hmm. So he gets into the elevator before they can stop him. And he gets out, he goes up, and the next thing you see is another group of people was on the second floor.
The vet, Scott, and Angela.
Yes, the vet, Scott and Angela, went up for some reason. I think they were going to try
They're looking for medicine.
Yes, they're looking for any kind of medicine they can possibly find to help whoever is still coherent. And there's a dog there, and the dog's like a big German Shepherd or something, belongs to one of the residents. And he's like foaming at the mouth. He's got all the rabies signs. And at that point, the jerk in the elevator, the doors open to the elevator, and the dog jumps into the elevator and attacks and kills this dude. The door's closed. They can't rescue him. So that's another one down. You don't really get too involved in these characters because you don't see enough of them to really kind of know who they are. You just kind of immersed in the chaos of everything that's happening because it really does feel like you're there with them.
Yeah, it's like they get rid of the most like unneeded characters first, and then they start going for like the actual people that you actually know.
So at one point, they get a phone call that somebody from the CDC is coming in, which they probably would never happen. But somebody from the CDC, he's all like biohazarded up and blah, blah, blah. And he comes in to take a brain sample of one of the dead people, the policeman, to see if it really is rabies, because they don't know what it is. And when they question him, they finally get it out of him that the reason they quarantined all these people in this apartment complex is that the dog, they got a call from a vet that a dog was brought in that was really aggressive. There was something wrong with him, and he started attacking all the other dogs. And then within an hour, all the dogs were infected and started attacking everybody else. So that ended up being Max, the little girl's dog that the dad took out the day before. That's how the CDC, the police, and everybody got involved, because they traced the dog back to this apartment complex. Mm-hmm. So that's how they knew.
And continue, sorry.
No, go ahead, babe.
No. But, sorry. So the reason the dad's not in the, like, a complex anymore is because, like, the vet was the day before, but since they know the little girl's, like, has a fever and she's sick, they're getting, like, some antibiotics for her, because, like, the dad's like, oh, well, I'll just get it.
Yeah, they didn't equate the fact that the dog was sick and the little girl was sick too. But we told you before that the girl turns, bites the mom, runs off. Anyway, so we're bouncing around. Again, it's very chaotic. So everybody kind of turns zombified or gets infected, and they chase the remaining people back upstairs to this abandoned apartment. You've got Jake, the remaining fireman, who has a large, like, battery hammer thing that they use to hammer doors down. Mm-hmm. And he did think to grab that. The police officer's long gone. He was the only one that had a gun. Of course, you know, this is LA. Nobody has a fucking gun.
No, the other police officer that got bitten was long gone, but the other one, the W-named one, is still there.
Oh, is he there with them? Okay. So, and then the CDC guy... when they run into this apartment, you had like 4 people, including the Angela and then the cameraman, because of course you have to have the cameraman to see everything that's going on. And are the power cut off at that point?
Yes, everything's like internet power was cut off ever since they knew the doors was locked.
Yeah, so there's no light, and it's dark as crap, and the only light is from the camera, is from the guy that's filming.
Yeah, and the lights outside from the police.
That's true, and they had windows in this apartment, but it's very black. So they barricade themselves in this empty, derelict apartment, and they heard something, and the CDC guy that was kind of lost in the melee, he had hidden himself in that apartment in the corner, and he was bitten. So they knew that they barricaded themselves in with somebody that's going to change. So they pull some doors closed, and it's French doors, so it's glass. So they don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And at some point, this guy turns and he grabs the landlord and kills him. And there's a girl in the corner, and she's like chewing on her fingers. And she didn't think that everybody's got blood all over them from all these deaths and all these people. So obviously she was infected at some point, getting blood or saliva or something all over her. So the next time you see her again, she's infected, so she's chewed her fingers off. Mm-hmm. So she turns.
Yeah, and the guy that's with her, he's like her opera professor.
Yeah, they're roommates.
Yeah, they're roommates. So he's like, no, you're not touching her. You can't touch her. He's like, we have to get out of here. We're getting out of here. So he grabs this like knife or whatever, and he like cuts the plastic off. And he's, like, trying to jump outside. We told you this earlier, but he gets sniped by a sniper. Bump, bump, he's dead.
Yeah, so everybody's freaking out. And the Angela character, who's the newscaster originally, you can see the transition from somebody that's confident and secure, and she loses her fucking mind. She's like hyperventilating. Mm-hmm. She can't function. And the only voice of reason is the cameraman. You hear him. You don't see him. I mean, occasionally you see him, But he's like, Angela, calm down, baby, calm down. It's okay. And she's like, and it's really terrifying when you're watching this movie because of the way it's filmed. You really do feel like you're right there with them, and it's just one thing after another after another. It's very chaotic, and so they end up, they're trapped in here with these zombies. So they end up taking their chance and running out the door. So it's basically the cameraman, Angela, who's the reporter, and Jake, the fireman. So they're trying to run. The landlord said something about him having keys. There's a basement door that they can get out, but it's locked. They had to get the keys. So they're going to his apartment to try to find these keys. Remember, it's pitch black. There's like 8 or 9 infected people down there that are walking around trying to kill you. And they're fast. They're not like zombies. They're not dead. They're just rabies infected. So they're very fast. Almost like 28 days later. So anyway, so they're pitch blackness. The only light is from the camera. So it's a small spotlight. And they're running up and down 3 flights of stairs trying to get... So they get into the landlord's apartment, and Angela's frantically going through everything trying to find these keys.
And Scott's like, no, they're not going to be in there. And then she's like, we'll check the desk again. And like the camera light's going out because it's dying.
Yeah, they've been several hours filming, so his battery's dying. So the light's flickering on and off, and that's terrifying too because she's screaming, put the light on me. And then so one of the zombies, one of the characters that they lose track of, because there's over 10 people there and they lose track of them, heard them and came after the cameraman. And you see it from the camera point of view.
Yeah, because then the full power's cut off. And then they're like, what was that? What was that? And I don't know who it was, but it was one of the girls that was gone crazy. There was the little kid. I'm unsure what
it was
happened.
The one they found in the apartment by herself.
Yeah.
So she charges at him.
Mm-hmm. And she's trying to get her. And she jumps onto Angela and tries to bite her. But then she gets kicked by Angela and kicked by Jake. Sorry, I keep getting that wrong. But Scott kills her with the camera, smashes her in the face with the camera lens.
And you see it. You see it like the camera's he hits her with the lens of the camera and it just bashes her face in. And you see it coming at like that. And it's really cool. It's a very cool effect. And there's blood all over the camera. And of course, he's traumatized because he just killed somebody with the lens of his camera. So, but they have to take the chance. Mm-hmm. So they find the keys and they run downstairs and, you've got the different infected coming at him. And Jake has this large hammer type thing and he's just swinging away. He's hitting people with his fist and they're so amped up. They're just trying to get downstairs. And at some point they realize that they can't do it, that they can't get down there. There's too many of them.
Yeah, but they run to the elevator. Man, this is I don't know if this is later, but this is before anything else happens. They're downstairs and they're getting into the elevator to get away to get to the 3rd floor to the room. But every infected is trying to get in, but they stop it. But there's still the dead guy in the elevator, and sadly Max the dog, he gets bashed his head in. Sad. But that was before that. So they get upstairs and there's infected. Before it, they're trying to latch onto people. But they managed to get into the room, which is where they find the keys. And Jake's we'll have to get out of here. We need to run down those stairs. And so now on the 2nd, 3rd floor, where the keys are in that apartment. So Jake's we're gonna have to run down the 3 flights of stairs to get into the basement. And he's like, are you ready? Are you ready, Angela? Are you ready, Scott? So he goes out, and then an infected lashes onto him. And infecteds are coming up the stairs, and Jake's dying. He's run, run, run.
And so, Jake gets bitten, and there's nobody there to protect them anymore. They lost the hammer. They're not fighters. So the last one fighter they had, somebody jumps on Jake and tears his throat out, and he's telling them to run. So instead of going downstairs, they can't get to the basement to get out, so they have to go upstairs. So they go, every apartment, every floor is compromised with these infected. So they end up running all the way up to the attic. And you remember at the beginning, the landlord told them that somebody did rent the attic, but they hadn't seen him in months and months. So they're frantically getting the keys. Remember, there's one light and it's going out. I mean, it's just chaos everywhere. And you're the whole time you're watching this. So she gets the door open and they go in.
Yeah, and the other policeman that didn't get bitten, well, now he's dead because, he did now.
Everybody's dead.
Yeah, everybody's dead except for Angela and Scott. He's banging on the door and she's like, help me, I can't get out, put the light on me. And she's
losing it. She's just because she can't see. Mm-hmm. It's pitch blackness. They're frantically running around. They don't know what's happening. They know that they don't know how many infected there are. They don't have any way to protect themselves. So they go into this attic and they close the door, and the only light, remember, is like from the camera, and it's flickering on and off. Mm-hmm. What did they see?
So like he's like, it's okay, Angela, calm down, calm down. Like they lock the door because she manages to get it, and she's panicking. So like they see this attic door latch just like plop open. It's like Fletcher's death. It just like.
Well, they're in the attic apartment. Mm-hmm. And they walk in and they see like there's cages.
Mm-hmm. Of rats.
Oh, at one point we forgot about this. Early on, when they went into the apartment to try to get everybody downstairs to keep everybody safe, there's that younger woman that was sitting there that was very sick. She was foaming at the mouth and she was just kind of sitting there in her apartment. At one point, Scott was panning through the apartment and you see a rat. And there's a broken bowl of something. Obviously, she dropped the bowl, but the rat charged him. And he's like backing up, and then he kills it. He says, did you see that? That rat came toward me. The rat was terribly aggressive. So fast forward, and they go into this attic apartment, and they see these cages full of these rats.
Mm-hmm. And there's like these notes on it. It's like about this is terrorism or terrorism attack. But it's only like one person. He's like, it's like a defense for terrorism.
So what you see is news articles taped up on the wall. Now you see biohazard stuff going on. You see chemistry stuff going on. You see experiments going. Like you see this person has all these lab rats and all these things. And there's a table and there's bloody gauze like he did some kind of surgery or something up there. But what's the articles are about is bioterrorism. So you kind of put two and two together. Remember, this was not long after 9/11. So it was... it was a bioterrorist thing. So he was developing, whoever was in that apartment was developing some sort of biohazard weapon, and he was injecting it into the rats and setting the rats loose in the apartment. It never says if it was done on purpose or if it was an accident. So anyway.
So like they're seeing that and they're walking through the rats and like the camera's like dying like really quickly.
No light.
Like they're still looking at the light then, but as soon as like the attic latch comes down, they're like, Angela's freaking out. She's screaming because everything's like horrifying and loud to her.
And pitch black.
Yeah.
And she's in the middle of this.
Yeah, rat cage room.
Yeah. And it's tiny and it's cramped and everything. So the attic latch just kind of comes down. And for some reason, he's like, I got to see what's up there. We got to see if we're safe. Or we got to see if there's another way out. So she's like, don't leave me. You're the only light. So she's in pitch blackness. So he kind of climbs up the stairs and you see it from the point of view of the camera.
Mm. Yeah, and he's like panning it around. He sees nothing. But then he turns around at this one point, and then this thing like bashes its head into the camera. And he's like screaming. And
he falls.
Yeah, he falls.
So you never really see what it is. It almost looks like it's a child. Mm-hmm. It's like some kind of experiment or some kind of something. Did you think that's what it was?
Yeah, I think it was an experiment. Because you'll see like something else later on that looks like a way experiment.
Yeah, so anyway, he falls down and the camera kind of flickers on and off, and then the light goes, so he chooses, I guess he just remembered they had it. He switches over to
night vision.
So she's in pitch blackness, he's in pitch blackness, she's hyperventilating, she's like, like he's in trying to calm her down, so he's still filming, he's in, night vision. So everything you see is in night vision. And then at one point he's like, shh, and you hear something.
Yeah, he has the night vision on, and he pans around. You see this thing, it's like, it has two of these long, it's like my long arm, like my arm, but like 3 times. It looks like a skinwalker, you would think of a skinwalker as this like long, big beast thing without hair, just like skin and ribcage.
Like a humanoid, mm-hmm. But you can't tell if it's male or female. Mm-hmm. And it had like surgery scars on it and stuff, but it was rooting around in the darkness. It was very weird, and you don't know if it is the person that was doing the experiments, mm-hmm. or if it was somebody they experimented on. You really don't know what it is. And Angela's trying not to breathe because she can't see what it is. Scott can see it because he's seeing it through the lens of the camera. And he's like, be quiet. And she's like, dying.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, shh, shh, shh. And like, they're like, he's like, if he can't hear us, he can't find us. So he's like whispering that to her. So, like, it's, like, running around, it's, like, grabbing these things, like, a hammer, like, I guess, but it's, like, just, like, smashing things and throwing them on the ground. It's, like, clatter, clatter. Mm-hmm. And you can see it has, like, it's, like, it doesn't have any parts on it. It's just, like, straight up, like, skin and bones.
Yeah, that's why you can't tell if it's male or female, but it was human at one point.
Yeah.
So, at one point, they make some kind of noise, and it charges at Scott. So, it essentially
latches onto him, and he drops the camera, and she's freaking out. She's screaming
because she can't see. She's in blackness. She didn't know what happened to him.
Yeah, and he's like, run, run, run. So she like hides, and she's like being quiet, and she slowly it smashes a chair over, like these little like pull-up chairs that you usually have at like a convention. Those like I don't know,
a folding chair.
Yeah, folding chair, and like folds over, and she's like gasping because she's scared, but she's like slowly crawling towards it and like moving out of the way without making a sound. So hello, sorry, the video cut off.
And I don't know how to do any of that. She's got to school me on how to edit videos and stuff like that, so I apologize.
Yeah, it's okay, but we were just talking about how she was crawling towards the camera trying to pick it up. So she picks it up, and she's like looking around the room. She's like slowly standing up because it can't see her. She can only see because of the night vision in the camera lens. So she's looking through, and she sees like Scott's body because she doesn't know he's dead. But it's like chewing on her, and she screams.
And she drops the camera. She screamed when she saw that the creature was eating him, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he he runs at the camera, and it like she drops it, and she's like, ah! So it's like attacking at the camera because it doesn't know where she is. So she crouches down, and she's like, so but like the camera's down again, and so she's like slowly crawling towards it because like she doesn't know where it is now. So but she like reaches for it, and guess what? She gets pulled into the darkness, and I literally guessed it.
She did. She guessed it.
I was just like, die, because I knew something was going to happen to her. Like, no one ever survives this.
Overall, it was a really, really good movie.
It was chaotic, so sorry for our weird explanation.
Our review is extremely chaotic. Our blow-by-blow is extremely chaotic because the whole movie is extremely chaotic like that. It really is. Like, it's just a snafu from like one thing to another and things come out of nowhere. And I think that the acting job of the main character Angela was so good because she went from confident to just
having a panic attack.
A basket case. And you can kind of put yourself in her shoes because when it goes black and she's in the middle of this thing and she sees that Scott's dead and she's by herself and she's in the middle of this rat infested thing and it was really truly terrifying. It really was. It was a really good one. So the difference between, I've seen both versions, Quarantine, which is the American version, and then I've seen Record, which is the Spanish version. Mm-hmm. The American version, they made it to where it is a biohazard terrorist because remember this was 2008, so we were still kind of scared of the terrorism thing after 9/11 before her. And then with the Spanish version, now Spain was a very Catholic country. I don't know if it still is, but they made it have a religious context to it. So overall, I really like the American Quarantine better as a whole movie, but I really like the explanation and instead of being what it ends up being in the Record version. If you get an opportunity, watch both movies. And hey, let me know. Put down at the bottom, say, hey, I liked Record better, or hey, I liked Quarantine better. But overall, Miss Molly, what do you think as a young lady viewing this for the first time?
I think if I had to rate it out of 5, it probably would have gotten like a 4.5. It's just there were so many fill-in characters and so many parts that were just random. Because like Fletcher still had his mic on, so did like Jake.
Mm-hmm.
But
the fireman.
But why didn't we hear him like screaming or like shouting?
That's a good point. Like, so at the very first of the movie, when Miss Espinosa attacked the police officer and they were carrying him downstairs and all that, and Fletcher stayed up with her, he still had his mic on. Why didn't we hear anything? Literally nothing. You forget about him. Because of the chaos going on, you forget he's upstairs until you see him hit the fucking ground. Excuse me.
Yeah, but I was just so confused because, like, I didn't know, like, he was still up there.
Everybody forgets about it. And that's what happens with this movie. You forget because everything is so chaotic. Mm-hmm. But this is definitely a 4.5-star movie. This was one of my daughter's favorite zombie movies at the time. And it was just really, really good. Give it a watch. It's a little odd now looking back at it 20 years later on a small screen. But it's very much worth a watch. So I let Miss Molly pick when she came over today. I said, okay, you want a werewolf movie? Do you want a zombie movie? And then I have to narrow it down and say, okay, do you want an old movie or do you want a new movie?
I was like, I like new, but like old's okay. But like old to me is like 80s, 70s.
Yeah, okay, kid.
Sorry.
Hit my
Sorry
age.
that you're old.
I know, I can't help it, I'm old. But that's it for now. Go watch Quarantine and record, which is the original, and drop me some comments and some likes. For now, it's Hargal and Miss Mollie. See you later.
See you.